You think this is the real Quaid?
Snappy hands.
It's not.
That's a lobster. That's a crustacean, at least. I don't know.
It's a kind of lobster suit. But then if it was Total Recall back,
I feel bad for anybody if shit like this ends up in the pre-roll. I always feel bad for people because they don't understand that like Danielle's is actually just sitting on a lobster face. Otherwise, it just sounds like we all have like fucking we're all on LSD.
I'll only record this podcast if I'm sitting on a lobster.
That's so somebody like on drugs watching Total Recall.
God.
Doesn't Quaid kind of look like a lobster? No, he's a person.
No, he's Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Not at all.
It's October 15th, 2014, the Ides of October.
This is Idle Thumbs 180. I'm Chris Remo.
I'm Sean Vanneman.
I'm Jake Rodkin.
I'm Danielle Riendo.
And I'm Nick Brecken.
No, you're not.
Oh, Nick's not here.
No Fiverr. Fiverr declined her.
We fucked up when we were going to record this, and then Nick couldn't make it after all, so...
Is Nick...
So
No
we
Fiverr.
promised a Fiverr last
No
week.
For anyone who's found our podcast in the last 2 months, the question of whether Nick Brecken is real or whether those words mean anything continue to be
to exist
completely
for
unaddressed.
one more week.
Yeah.
He's a
That's our
ghost.
own little conspiracy.
It is.
The Brecken conspiracy.
Yeah, that's what it's
I
called.
was trying
also.
to find a like a nice little portmanteau with
Yeah.
Nick Brecken's name and the word conspiracy and could not get there.
No.
No.
The Breck...
Conspiracy?
Yeah, the Breck-conspiracy.
The Breck conspiracy. Yeah.
Yeah, oh, that's obvious.
Yeah.
Oh, the
Okay.
Breck
The
conspiracy.
Breck conspiracy.
Yes.
Wow, why did I not get there? Morning cast, no good. It was right there, just sitting there.
If you combine
Right
someone's
on the
name
table.
that ends in the
His last
syllable
word.
con and another word who starts with the sound con. No, not seeing it.
No, doesn't fit.
Where
The
is
Nick
it?
Breedon-spiracy. Perfect.
Hey guys.
I started playing the game that Justin McElroy liked so much.
Yes.
Sherlock Holmes, Crimes and Punishments.
Oh, yeah.
There's going to be a little bit of Holmes talk across this episode. I
Oh
think.
yeah, well this is
Holmes all over the place. Holmes it up.
A Holmesian affair.
Yes.
I don't have a ton to say about it because this is the weirdest thing about Idle Thumbs, right? Is like if you don't love something, it's really shitty to talk about it because you're just like, here's a review. But
And thus Sean's opinion of Sherlock Holmes.
well, it was weird for the first time.
So what is this called again?
It's Sherlock Holmes, Crimes and Punishments.
Okay.
I always have to put the S's
Multiples.
on there. Yeah.
Yes.
Because they are in the actual game, not because you just think it's funny.
No, they are the actual title.
Right.
Yeah. I was trying to think of another nice Russian novel that I could double plural off the top of my head. But morning podcast.
Wars
not
and
gonna
Pieces.
Wars and Pieces.
War-
yeah.
Yes.
Everything's coming up a little short with old Sean this morning.
No.
What's another notable Russian novel with an ampersand? 2 words. Shit.
Got nothing. I don't think there are
Probably
any.
weren't written
We're
any.
having a good day.
Wars and Pieces. Sensational stuff. Oh my goodness gracious.
Yeah, my upcoming game,
just even
Hercule
made me think of
Poirot,
Reese's
Wars
Pieces.
and Pieces.
Yes. I would probably play that.
Yeah.
You know.
So
made me think
Sherlock
of a kid,
Holmes,
yeah.
Crimes and Punishments.
Yes. It's funny. This is just an indictment of maybe video games in general. But I started playing it, and it starts with sort of this like interactive set piece where you are Watson in the first person. And
Creepy Watson, though, right? You get like
you are creepy.
Do you get blink
Creepy
powers
Watson.
from Dishonored? Like, so
No.
it's worth pointing out that Sherlock Holmes, Crimes and Punishments is made Because we got to put extra S's on things. It's made by Frogwares.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Frogwares,
And
classic adventure game developer.
Frogwares is they've been making Sherlock Holmes games for over 10 years.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
like I think they're the creators of Creepy Watson.
They're French, right?
I believe so.
The French love Sherlock Holmes. It
No,
seems.
they're
Oh, they're not.
I just loaded it up. Their
Some
company.
Western European.
They're from Kiev, Ukraine,
Oh,
and
sorry, I got that
Ireland.
totally wrong.
So
Okay,
they're
never
like
mind.
they're
Cool.
all over the place.
Yeah.
Kiev is in the Ukraine or in Ukraine.
Oh,
you don't say the
sorry.
Ukraine.
Yes,
Say the Ukraine,
they're in Kiev, Ukraine, and they're in Dublin.
Okay. Cool.
Yes.
I bet those guys drink a lot when they hang out. What? I don't know. I've known people from both places. So I mean, this Sherlock game by Frogwares seemed, when it was sort of in its preview phase and up into its review phase, as sort of like, this is actually a huge step forward for the franchise for these type of games. Just the visual fidelity is really nice, and they have this sort of like Moffat inspired Holmes investigation mechanic where you can sort of scrub through a like 3D path of a human and their surrounds to be like the
tilt shift photography, close up micro
yeah,
inspection stuff. Yeah.
or wrinkled whatever, and a rosary bead and whatever.
Yeah.
And it was strange to play a game having worked at Telltale making adventure games for so long, and I haven't played an adventure game since basically Walking Dead episode 5, like before like doing a bug pass. Like that's the last time I played an actual like 3D adventure game like this, a nouveau 3D adventure game. And I was like, oh, it's a Telltale game. It was strange that like there are these two sort of schools now. There's like action game and then whatever this is.
Two schools of what?
Of this like modern design, I guess, of like
there's a
of
lot
this
more
type
than
of
that.
of this type of like of
3D high fidelity.
3D fidelity story thing.
Okay.
So you get like
Yeah.
the Telltale
Yeah.
Heavy Rain thing, or you get like what?
Like whatever.
Shadow of Mordor.
Is this?
I was going to say, or like or it's everything. There's sort of like games and then the not games. Like I don't know if that makes sense. Like things that people put up as this is just a school of design.
A not game.
Right. This is like nouveau 3D adventure.
Opening up a really good can of worms.
And I don't mean to say a not game, but like a non.
Traditional.
It's just not an action game, I should say. Yeah. An action in the loosest form of the term. And it's funny just like how homogenous that actually is as a genre. After I played a bunch of Crimes and Punishments and then thought about every Telltale game that I've worked on or been around or play tested, and then the sort of David Cage school of adventure, whatever that is.
Right.
You're putting those in the same bucket.
Yeah, all of that is just
okay.
sort of the same bucket, sort of awkwardly walking around a set, looking for things, not feeling like I'm in the story in those moments, but then when I'm in the story, feeling completely out of control, and it's weird to have made one of those, a few of those, but I guess I expected, because it got really great reviews, Crimes and Punishments. I expected some sort of like watershed thing of, as I'm walking, more story is happening around me.
Right. Solving some of the things that you're describing as kind of weak points in that formula.
And I feel like the non-action elements of a Naughty Dog game get to a lot of that. You can't really interact with the environment much, but because you're constantly moving forward, it feels like story is washing over you when you're in the not cutscene moments of those games, in a way that I think is really great. But I couldn't help but walk into a scene in Crimes and Punishments and see already from my vantage point the 4 people I had to go talk to who were just idling, and not even like in a like planted idle, like 2 feet. They're not like walking around and
they're just part of the scenery.
They are
until you
signposts. Their feet are on the ground and they're not moving. They're breathing, but they're not in some sort of.
They're not actually part of the world.
No, they're not like tending a garden and then like wiping their brow and like walking over and doing something else. Then you stumble upon them and they're like, oh hey, Whereas I feel like set pieces in a lot of action games do a better job of that. And I think there's obvious choreography issues with why that isn't the case in a game like this.
And budgetary issues.
Yeah, that's the kind of mean. Like,
They have I want to talk to you face.
Production issues in general.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But man, it's definitely a style of thing. You know what I mean? And that's always hard for me in any media, whether it's a book or a game or a movie, when like, oh, I'm enjoying this because it's the style of the thing that I like, as opposed to the individual creative choices being made. Like, I just can't see past the genre. I have that issue with like camp film, you know, and like a lot of like really intense satire, I think. Although good satire is great. But you know, it's the same sort of thing. Like, oh, I'm in an adventure game. I'm not actually in the world of Sherlock Holmes. I just can't ever make that mental jump.
That's the thing so you bringing that up makes Sherlock Holmes Consulting Detective even more, like, compare even more favorably, you know, in that light. Because the thing so Sean, you talked about Sherlock Holmes Consulting Detective, which is a board game. You talked about that a few weeks ago on the podcast, and I played it for the first time yesterday.
So have I.
Yeah, Jake also did. And the thing that is so great about it is that it just gives you information without sort of concretizing any of it beyond just like the lines people say or like the locations that things are. But like, you are responsible for taking all the information that is given to you, you know, clues that you find or like information people say, or sort of when you look at the map and you say, oh, this is here and that's there, let's try going here. You're responsible for synthesizing all of those things into some kind of coherent hypothesis. And that's something that's then the game, when you actually sort of deem yourself to be done, if the game never says you're done, you just have to say, okay, I think we've solved this now and we're going to check if we're right or not. Like, even your hypothesis is not interpreted like via a text parser or like via a multiple choice dialogue tree or via any of these things that like take the possibility space of your thoughts and then just funnel them down into something that like algorithmic or listed. And that just like, you just don't feel that like that, the feeling of just being there with your friends trying to figure something out is so difficult to achieve in a video game. I feel like you'd have to if you were to make this game as a video game, you'd have to just do it the same way the board game is, by just having it be a multiplayer system where you just trust, you know, the people playing it to not cheat. And like, you know, not like when you're at the end and you're saying, oh, what do you, the way that it sort of determines if you've solved the crime is it asks you a bunch of questions, says, oh, who, you know, what were you trying to figure out? Who did it? Why did they do it? You know, how is this person involved? And like, it would be bad if you had to do that from a list of multiple choices or like, you know, even I feel like, again, as I say, even if you had to type it into a text parser, I feel like it would be cheapened. Like there's something really powerful about someone from the group being like, all right, are you guys on board with this? Like, this is what we think, right? Like, it was this guy, he did it for this reason. Like, he was an Irish nationalist and like, and you know, he was aggrieved about this thing and like, blah, blah. And everyone's like, yeah, exactly. Totally. And then you read the thing and like, as a human being who has the power of language, you know, if the thing that you read that answers it matches up to the thing you said. You're not worrying that a computer is going to like misparse your text, or that the multiple choice thing is actually going to nudge you in the right direction because you're like, oh, fuck, our thing isn't any of these four things, but our second choice was one of the options available. So it must be. Like, there's just all those things happen once you start like.
It's interesting because Sherlock Holmes Consulting Detective is also available electronically, as we've talked about when we talked about
but I would imagine it's just in the same framework, right? That the.
Do you think that it asks
an FMV, and I think it does require.
Okay, it just asks you to speak out aloud as a group, and then the game will just read the content. I believe that is the case. A reader will probably have to write in because I haven't played it. Yeah, they were briefly on the App Store, but they're gone now.
Oh, so you can't get it anymore?
No, there were like 3 cases of the old FMV were on the App Store, but like, I had a hard time getting them, and then I don't think you can get them now.
Yeah,
I could be wrong.
I was going to ask, since you guys have played this, does having like a physical book and like physical evidence that you're sort of working through, does that also sort of help with the atmosphere? Since this is a game that's
for sure.
There's two. Yeah, there's like a plus and a minus to that.
Sure.
The plus is that yes, it feels great. Like going through 5 different issues of the Times, the newspaper, and just like scouring the whole thing for clues and knowing that 90% of what's going to be in there is irrelevant because it's just a newspaper.
Sure.
But then connecting the dots feels amazing.
Right, there's a veiled reference in this letter to the editor that kind of thematically relates to the crime.
Right. Like, do we want to go just like anything? Knock on this guy's door? And you get there and he's like, what are you doing?
Because there's no technical requirements to how you view it. Like, you don't have to view it on a screen. It means when we had a ton of us in here. We had 8. Like the whole company almost, and it was probably too many people actually. But I thought it was okay. But at the same time, it was cool because our case had 5 issues of the newspaper, so people would just be focused in a corner on something, and then Paula would be like, "Whoa! There's a thing that I found on the back page of this newspaper that's maybe about something."
Yeah,
and
Nice.
What that actually feels like to me is when we've played room escape games together. Like the Sherlock Holmes game feels very much like
you're right,
like a room escape game in a box because it's
much more thematically coherent.
It's really well done. Yeah, I mean, you could basically just buy a copy of this game and decorate a small room to look like Sherlock Holmes' study and say Sherlock Holmes is sick for the day. He stopped halfway through this case. 10 people have to solve it, and you could charge people $30 a person to do it, and you'd get away with it probably. Because that's very much the feeling that this experience is like to me.
Totally.
Except that it's just friends around a table.
Right.
Sure.
The negative part for me is the part that actually is better in a video game, or it can be better in a video game, which is that they can only realistically actually allow for you to visit a finite number of the locations in the world. So sometimes you feel like you have a really good reason to want to go to a certain place, but then it's like, oh, this location doesn't exist at all.
That would have the same issue in a video game, though, right?
But
you just go and the door doesn't open.
But in a video game, the artifice makes it a lot easier to like paper over that.
Yeah. Right. Whereas, I will say the case that we played in particular was much lighter on locations than any other one I had played. All right. Like the case book for that one, I would think it was about half as long as the previous one that I had played. Mm-hmm. Where I had the fact of like, oh, we want to go to this place, and then it's not in the book.
Right.
That had never happened to me before, actually, in 2 cases that I had played.
And the other disadvantage of doing this as a board game, I'm sure there would be ways to do this as a board game, but they chose not to solve it, which is fine. Like, you got to pick design constraints, but like a thing that you could do much, much, much more easily in a video game is allow for players to visit the same location twice based on following a chain of clues
and have a follow-up question.
Yeah. Exactly, but you just can't do that in this game because the way that the book is structured means you could go to a location
probably
once.
Redesign the game a little bit,
I'm sure. Yeah,
there are board game tools that you have at your disposal to do something like that.
There are. Yeah. They just chose
not to do it. Yeah.
Not to do it, and it would. I'm just saying it is a thing that would be easier as a game because that stuff is all invisible to you as the player. Like you can't accidentally glance down the page and notice, oh, there's another thing on this location here.
Right. I wonder when I can come back here. What's the gating mechanism and things like that.
Right. You'd have to do some weird thing where every location has like the same exact amount of surface area, but one of them is red and blue gridded out. And then when you get the red cellophane, you can look at the second half of every location, or who the fuck knows. You'd have more like open second book of this case or
That's
whatever.
the kind of thing that is like totally trivial in a game.
In a video game.
Yeah. Yep. Anyway, so I didn't mean to go on so long about this game because we've already talked about it before, but I really, really liked it. I thought it was really fun.
Yeah. One thing since we last talked about it is we heard from some readers, I believe, that it is coming back into print by the end of this year, potentially. At least the publisher or a new publisher, someone is trying to bring it back.
Hopefully with a more rigorous translation, because we had a couple.
It will not be
dead. You don't think so?
I bet it'll be straight reading.
The translation's always been a little funky.
Also, apparently there are add-on cases that exist officially, and there are a couple fan cases that exist. And I don't think any of that stuff's available, but like we got really vague talking about what's coming back, but it sounds like potentially there are accessory cases and this game will be appearing sometime in the near future.
Because we did get stumped a couple times, because in one case because of, I think, kind of an arguable translation issue, in another case because it was actually just a straight-up typo. As far as I can tell. A location was just printed with the wrong location and we couldn't find it.
Yep, that sucked.
Yep.
We probably would have it would have been very different for us. One thing that the counter consulting detective with crimes and punishments, the first time you sort of use the Holmesian investigatory mechanic, at least the first time I used it with this woman, I learned you do some things, you like kind of complete, you search whatever, her entire situation,
her person,
and then it gives you new dialogue options.
And you pick a new dialogue option, and in the middle of it, she's talking, and you can have like there's a QuickTime event to be like, aha, no, let me pick up on that thread. You can interrupt her basically.
It's like a Phoenix Wright hold it situation, kind
of. Yeah. And then if you've gathered all the information about her, Holmes just does his Holmes thing. He's like, well, you met him on pilgrimage and blah 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 blah, and it was cool. It wasn't cool. No, it was not. Because it's just sort of like, oh man, that character is smart, and I clicked those buttons. You know what I mean? I found the right buttons and made my character smart, as opposed to, it doesn't do, and I'm sure it ebbs and flows with this as you continue to play the game, but it didn't feel like I was even in the same orbit as Holmes in terms of the knowledge I had in my brain and the deductive leaps that I could reasonably make. And I think this is shitty.
I think this is
that's a byproduct of him being. I mean, I think a lot of that is inherent to the form. But
yeah, I was going to say, I think what you're describing is like a very, very significant conflict between games being really, really good at enabling power fantasies, but really, really, really bad at actually being at like convincingly allowing you to actually inhabit the like ability or space of the person with that power, right? Like it's really easy to make a game.
Unless your power is to jump really high.
Or to kill a lot of orcs.
But that's a power. No, it's not though, because like that's what I mean though. Like you can the actual thing that you get really good at in a game about jumping high is like timing a button press well or something.
Oh, right,
it has nothing to do with like the actual things that are being depicted on screen. Like. Which is fine, right? I mean, obviously watching a movie about someone who's powerful or reading a book about someone who's powerful doesn't grant you those abilities as well, or actually give you the ability to like understand what it's like to inhabit that person's consciousness. But I think there's less of a conflict because those things don't promise to do that. Mm-hmm. Whereas a game kind of makes an implicit promise that like, you are this person, you're amazing. And a lot of game trailers are very clearly predicated on telling the person watching them like how awesome you are going to be and like you are going to be amazing.
That's I wasn't sorry. I wasn't intending to disagree with that. I just meant that like the way that the chemicals in your brain perceive swinging around New York City as Spider-Man gives you a lot more of those connections as opposed to.
Sure, I guess
you're never going to feel like Sherlock Holmes,
right? And sure, I guess also swinging around New York City as Spider-Man is inherently a fantasy, whereas being really, really smart,
right?
I mean, being Sherlock Holmes level smart is also basically a fantasy because no one is that for real. But it's like everyone knows people who are smarter than they are, and so Sean, you're almost kind of describing the sensation of just like being around someone who's really smart and then feeling stupid. Even though technically in the game you're
it's
like...
It's always going to be a Watson simulator no matter what you do.
Yeah,
right?
creepy Watson sim.
It literally was me just being like, oh, she has rosary beads because that's where the camera tracks to.
Yeah.
Oh, she has a journal because that was the next stop on the spline.
Right.
And then Sherlock
and then the game
wow.
Says, thank you, player. Now.
Yeah, exactly.
I'll take it from here.
Like, that's not satisfying. I mean,
yeah.
I don't know how to make a satisfying Sherlock Holmes game as a video game. Like,
well,
I think it's an interesting line of inquiry. But
that's clearly why the board game explicitly makes you not Sherlock Holmes, because when you finish a case in Sherlock Holmes Consulting Detective or when you give up, either way, Sherlock Holmes has solved it in the most efficient, perfect way, and you're trying to just like
best him
or like, if you can,
meet
or
his,
like
his level of efficiency.
The Sherlock Holmes board game also goes out of its way to avoid the thing that a lot of modern Holmes adaptations are fixated on, which is just you notice 15 tiny details in an instant and therefore you deduce something. This is a lot more like mired in sort of the procedural fact finding and catching people in lies.
But there are like very fine details that like we overlooked and we do overlook.
Yes,
like,
but
because it's text.
You don't have to catch them in a moment and make a deduction though, the way that you do in a video game that's pretending to be a real-time experience.
Yeah. You can always kind of like sit there and stew on them.
Yeah.
It is funny because it's all text. And it's set 100 years ago, you do sort of have to get over your reader bias. And I think we had a big problem with that in the case that we did, is we like read the scene and then assumed based on nothing, I guess, based on the translation not being descriptive enough that we knew what the crime scene looked like. And then later, it sort of revisits the crime scene as we're wrapping up the case. And we're like, oh, no, we didn't. They were just in the middle of a field. You know, like we were like, thought they were like, it doesn't really matter. But you have this sort of deductive, this sort of, your brain fills in the gaps the way it does when you read any story. And in Sherlock Holmes, because all the details matter, you have to make sure that you're not holding on to the...
You're not applying any...
Yeah, those gaps are not being filled with assumptions that you're going to use later to try to solve the case.
You're expecting it to be like on a dirt path with like a lit lantern next to the crime scene, but then it's actually in the middle of fucking nowhere or whatever.
Whatever. Both great games, though. I mean, not both great games. To be determined on Crimes and Punishments, because I think I should give it... I think I might be giving it short shrift.
It might be filed under not for you, though, for sure.
We'll see. It's definitely an adventure game, but people like adventure games. So, like, you know, it maybe is for you, reader. But that's Sherlock Holmes Crimes and Punishments on... I think it's on both consoles. I know it's definitely on PS4 and Steam. And then Sherlock Holmes Consulting Detective, again, we've talked about it before, is a board game that hopefully will be readily available on Amazon sometime in the next couple months. Really
I would love to play it. Everything I've heard about it.
Oh man, you should come over. We should play it.
Yeah, we'll play another case.
That sounds awesome. Excellent.
Yeah. How's life with you, Danielle?
Oh, you know, life's pretty good. Once I got home from my LAX experience.
Oh my God, you're fucking Sojourn. You're like Tom Hanks.
So you went to Indicade, and then your trip home from Indicade was
an odyssey.
Sounded really cool from Twitter.
Yeah. So I live tweeted my LAX experience.
It's a bad airport to be stuck in, by the way.
Oh,
I spent a lot of time in LAX. It's not a good airport.
Yeah,
not a lot of cool stuff there.
I've had some bad experiences at LAX before, but nothing close to this.
Yeah, no, this sounds transcendent.
I'll make it really as quick as possible. It is a bit of a slog, but I'll make it quick. I was at Indicade, and then I went to LAX to come home to San Francisco. That's about an hour flight, just for anybody who wants to know. I spent 22 hours at LAX. I arrived around 8 p.m., on Sunday night. I had a piece of carry-on luggage that was in dispute whether or not it was carry-on, even though I've carried this on to many a flight, never had a problem.
For some reason, I don't know why, because I fly a lot, so I hear the word carry-on a lot, but I just imagined you carrying like a dead crow.
Yeah.
Yes.
Just like, I have this hyena that was hit by a car.
I had a dead lion, a pelt, I was wearing it, and they were like, what's this? It's clearly...
Maybe it's because I've been thinking about dead lions, because that factored heavily into our Sherlock Holmes.
That's true.
Dead lion? There's a dead lion in this case?
Yeah, there were two of them.
Amazing.
A
pair of them.
Two!
Let's not get too into this.
What? That's the name of the case.
Is the dead lion?
It's like the lions of something or other.
Yeah.
The lion was lying on you.
So you were arguing about this like rotting dead carcass you were carrying, and they're like, well, you can't take this on, and they're like, I take it on all the time.
Yeah.
How do you think it got so rotted?
This is my service animal.
Oh my God.
It's very, exactly.
Oh.
It was
really
sad. It was a problem. And like this is also a part that made this kind of worse, but this isn't the fault of LAX or the airline, but I have anxiety and I had a panic attack while this was happening.
Oh, no.
So I was like sweating and like kind of shaking a little bit and nervous while this was all occurring. Anyway, I had to go to 3 different people in 3 different locations to finally get this carry-on
it was an adventure
approved. Game. Yes, it really was. There were points during this experience that it genuinely felt like it was a fucking video game. It actually felt like Alien Isolation. It was like, worst day simulator, go here, and then a bad thing happens, and then go here. Anyway, I missed my flight because of this, and I had to talk to 6 different employees, one of whom made me wait in a line, and then literally decided he had something more important to do, and he just left. He was like, I have to do something really important.
Goodbye.
And he just walked away. It was amazing. Customer service, I waited in that line, and customer service argued with me for a while about how I was not in the right gate. I was in the right gate. Eventually, they realized that.
So,
yes.
Couldn't you have just checked the bag?
At the point that I got to the person to check the bag, it was already too late to check a bag.
Okay.
So...
Okay,
that was definitely an option I was exploring, but it was not available to me by the time I got to that point.
Okay.
Customer service then straight up lied and said that we were going to be on standby for the 9 a.m. flight. This was at 10:30 or so.
PM.
Because you missed your flight because of the dispute, is what you're saying. Okay.
Yes. And then more adventure happened, and then the customer service person lied. We didn't know it was a lie at that point. They gave us cots to sleep on, but they took them away at 5 a.m., which wasn't very nice.
That's
anyway.
cool that they gave you cots, though.
Yeah.
I've never been given a cot.
I had a cot for a little while.
I slept in an airport one time. Not the best.
It was a nice...
Did they give you a cot?
On a cot? I've slept on a bench at an airport before.
I slept on the fucking ground.
Well, I ended up on the ground at 5.
Oh, of course. When they took their cot back.
When they took their cot back.
Yeah.
By the way, LAX...
Ma'am, it's unseemly to see you sleeping on this cot in this airport.
Yeah, basically.
People will think that we were nice to you.
Somebody just woke me up at 5 and was like, I need that back. And I was like, okay, here you go. Have your cot.
I wonder if that is just a thing you have to do when you, like, if you're on shift at a certain time, like, you got to check the box and go, like, steal all the cots from the miserable people.
Yeah. At 5, though, that just seems mean, you know?
It's in the airport open.
Maybe wait till 7.
Yeah. I mean, if you ever have a job where you have to, like, open a supermarket or something, which I used to do, like...
Yeah.
You gotta kick all the people out of the cereal aisle on the cots.
Well, you gotta kick a lot of people out of some places, unfortunately, but
I don't blame this person. I don't blame anybody who was doing their job during any of this, but man. Then I slept on the floor. By the way, this particular terminal plays top 40 blaring 24 hours a day. 24 hours a day. I spoke to...
I think Taylor Swift song is really good, though.
Oh.
Shake It Off.
They played Three Doors Down several times.
That's not top 40.
I know. Whatever it was. It was like top 40 from 10 years ago.
Yeah, it was at one point. Yeah. I feel like there's certain places you can go that seem like they probably were actually playing that music in like the 90s and early 2000s, but just kept
It was the last time that Muzak
Yes.
actually sent a CD, maybe.
Yeah.
Like their service went out of business.
You know what's weird about it is that sometimes you hear the horrible mix that actually makes it way more terrifying than that, because that's just being out of date or like not updating your shit. The worst is when you hear the mix that's like fucking, Three Doors Down and like Lit.
Oh, yes.
Like,
there was Lit. There was Lit. There was country. There was Kid Rock.
Yeah, Kid Rock, all that stuff. But then you hear like the one hit from like 2 months ago and you're like, oh my God, this is on purpose.
Yeah, there was Rihanna.
Like this is not just like they accidentally still have.
Well, it's that, and then just mix. Also like Let It Be will also just appear in the middle of it and then just disappear again.
Oh yeah, there was Rihanna. There was hits from this year. Which
makes it way worse.
Sounds nice.
Because it's never going that other shit's never leaving.
It's never going anywhere. Yeah, and it was the bad God. Okay, it was the worst Three Doors Down song.
Superman.
It wasn't Superman. It was Here Without You.
Oh.
If you know that song.
I don't even remember.
Which I wish I didn't. Anyway.
So you woke up at 5 a.m.
Woke up at 5 a.m. with the cot taken away. Then I decided to sleep on the floor, and then I had a second panic attack. This was all fun. And then at 9 a.m., this flight that we were told we were on standby, we went to go to it. The gate agent said, you're not on the list. They lied to you. You're nowhere on this list. Okay. This person, however, gets my blessing because they actually made a bunch of calls and got us on this flight. So we were really excited. We were like, oh, we had a terrible night, but, we're going to get home. The plane was broken. We deplaned. We got on a second plane. They told us that a tire was slashed. Then they told us that three tires were slashed. They needed to lift the plane up to change 3 tires. So we got off the second plane.
First off, no, I'm not getting back on that plane.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because like somebody has it out for this one.
They're actually...
Yes.
You sort of look up and you see the flight attendant talking to the captain and you sort of lip read the word saboteur. Like,
it's like, what's happening?
The worst plane sabotage ever. We'll just replace the tires. We're going to slash the thing that it doesn't need them. Like, it flies. You slash the wing. Like, you fucking idiot.
It's like the wing falls off. Well, 10 minutes later, after we deplaned the second plane, that flight was canceled. So then we had to wait in, and I swear to you...
At this stage, at least you have a ticket.
Well,
so you're transferring
That's
around.
what we thought.
Yeah.
We didn't. We got in 6 different lines. We were told 6 different things. We got on the phone with the United Airways. This was U.S. Airways. Sorry, not United. I was tweeting at U.S. Airways at this point saying, I'm really upset. And they gave us a number. The Twitter handle gave us a number. I called that number and they told us that we were still technically on standby. So we did not have a confirmed seat. It was going to be another $400 to confirm our seat on the next plane. I'm not even kidding. And I was upset about this. I looked into some other options, buses, Amtrak. At that point, we were so far into a far-flung terminal of this airport that it would have taken another 2 hours to get to the Amtrak station from where we were. So it was like, all right, we'll just stay here and we'll just eat this fee. 3 lines later, we were able to talk to someone who helped us and actually got us a real ticket on a real plane for 6 p.m. that evening. So we went to 3 other terminals, finally got to where we were going. There were a few gate changes along the way, whatever. We got on a plane at 6 o'clock, 22 hours after we had arrived. And
landed here in San Francisco.
And we made it home.
That is bonkers. As you were saying this, I was thinking about like a game about this, and then I was thinking, so like you're in this crazy fucking Kafka nightmare.
Yeah.
But then I realized probably what the game is you play as the airline.
Yeah.
And it's basically
that's a more fun version.
It's basically a tower defense game.
Yes.
Except instead of like towers, it's just nightmarish bureaucratic obfuscation.
Oh yeah. There were several computer
that prevent
systems.
passengers from going down the breezeways onto planes, basically.
Yeah. Exactly.
Oh, man.
There were computer malfunctions. There was, we couldn't get seat assignment. I mean, I'm leaving out a lot of the fine details of the fuck-ups here.
It's okay. It's
but, like, those are the broad strokes,
The story ramps up pretty well when it goes from we were kicked off of our flight to 3 tires were slashed on the 3rd plane that you're on.
Right. At that point, it just sounds like there is a malevolent god at work.
There really was.
Yeah. There is just a stupid cursor clicking around. It's like, shit, they got on the plane. Waste all of our resources on hiring this person to slash the tire. It's almost
it's like buying Kerrigan in StarCraft. She like
It's like if it gets to the point that you need that to keep Danielle off a plane, you're like,
I think
you're
actually
cashing in some favors.
I think what you're trying to do is you're not trying to prevent passengers in general. You're trying to prevent a specific pair of passengers, but like.
They're inside of the sea, like Adam Zombie
exactly.
Smasher.
Like, there's going to be a lot of times where, like, you just don't know where they are because they haven't. Because until
it goes, boo! They check it at the gate.
Yeah,
like, shit!
Like, fuck it! They're 2 terminals away. Fuck! Like, you only know where they are.
Deploy the guy's little beepy cart.
Yeah.
Exactly. Wait, take the cots away. Take the cots away.
Right. You only know where they are when they like.
When they're singled out,
or when they check in at a desk, or like when they use one of the machines to like scan their boarding pass, or when they go through the TSA line.
Right, you have to try to send them from one terminal to the other where there isn't a connection outside of security, so they have to go through the security line again.
Oh, they tried that. They did try that. Actually, this really happened. We had to go through, like, 3 employees had to give us very weird instructions how to find a special tunnel so that we didn't have to go through security again. But we almost had to go through security again at, like, 2 points during this Odyssey.
Go through a secret tunnel?
They call it the tunnel. I'm not kidding. Between Gate 6 and Gate 5.
That's how the slasher got onto the fucking tarmac.
Yeah, seriously, it was through the tunnel. Terminal 5 and Terminal 6 at LAX.
In this game, you maintained these tunnels because that actually makes it much easier for your... Like,
right, but you don't want to put the mad slasher in the
Exactly.
tunnel at the same time as these passengers or as any passengers because that slasher will kill anything that it sees. So that's also a sort of management layer that you've got to be careful.
The slasher had to be, there was a very specific time the slasher had to be in the tunnel.
Okay, they're asleep on cots. Deploy the slasher. Yes. Shit, the guy's taking the cots away. It's 5 o'clock.
Where's our slasher? Where's the fucking slasher?
Where's the slasher?
You also don't know where the slasher is at any given moment.
Oh my god.
Because it's a fucking slasher.
There's also rogue elements vaguely in your employ. This seems fine.
I actually think that would be a cool game.
It would be a very strange and specific game.
Yeah.
That's fine.
Danielle's LAX Nightmare. Yeah. Yay. So
Did you play any video games at IndieCade at least?
Well, I played a lot of Alien Isolation.
It is worth pointing out that if this game is about games journalists entering various airport terminals and alleyways, you'd probably have to call it GamerGate.
Yes!
Just saying.
Oh my god!
Anyway, that's the only mention of that word on this episode of this podcast.
Yeah.
How about IndieCade?
Yeah. IndieCade was cool.
Sorry, Sean. You look pained.
IndieCade was fun. I actually hid from parts of IndieCade because
you had a lot of panic.
Of this stuff happening because of the thing that shall not be mentioned.
But no, I mean, fuck it. We should talk about it. I mean, I'm not going to say we shouldn't talk about it because it's like people aren't talking about it enough because it's goddamn insane.
Yeah.
No, it's true.
But yeah, everybody should be talking about it to some extent.
I met
what IndieCade feels like a pretty
IndieCade is wonderful. Yeah, I felt safe at most of it. I was actually hiding from it partially because just honestly the stress of all this stuff has taken its toll, to be honest. You know, I wasn't hiding as in, like, I was hiding in a closet somewhere. I was like, course. You know what? I'm going to sleep in today, and I'm going to play Alien Isolation for a couple hours. Then I'm going to go see a bunch of talks and meet a bunch of people.
Okay.
Which is honestly what I did. I didn't really play.
That's your life
time to yourself.
Yeah, exactly.
You
lived a good life.
It was relaxing time. It was like, I did some sprinting workouts, and I went to the pool. It was fun. That's how I relax. I know I'm a weird person, but anyway, that is how I relax. And I met a lot of really, really lovely people. And there were a lot of Idle Thumbs fans that I met that were really, really nice. I took a picture with a fellow who is in the, they do a partnership with CHLA, and is for the Child's Play charity, sort of like their chapter, the LA folks. An Idle Thumbs fan, Brian was his name, I believe. He was very nice. I just sort of met people, talked to people, met a lot of people that, you know, I've played their games over the last year. A person named Laura Mary Glitch, who made the game Curtain, which I talked about a little bit on this podcast. They were wonderful. It was amazing to meet them. Yeah, so it was quite nice. It was quite nice to be in a place that felt very safe. And, you know, it was really cool that it's LA and it's actually Culver City. So it's kind of this really LA kind of place. You're right near the Sony Pictures studios. And it's like all these people with like dyed hair and piercings, and they're cool. And a lot of people are queer, and a lot of people are just awesome and very cool and very not LA in this center of LA. And that was awesome. I attended one of the best talks I've ever been to in my life, which was about politics in games, actually.
Who gave it?
So, Patricia Hernandez from Kotaku, full disclosure, was on this talk, yes.
Was it on a panel, or she gave the talk
She
herself?
was on a panel. It was a panel of folks.
Okay.
Mohini, I'm not going to pronounce her last name correctly, so I'll just say she's Freya Dutta on Twitter, was on this panel. There were some other folks. Wow. I'm sorry that I'm blanking on some of these folks' names, but it was an excellent, excellent talk about really just all different, from folks from all different sort of walks of life on this panel. So we had a journalist, we had two game makers who work at, sort of a smaller studio. There was Eddo, who makes games that are just sort of like interesting political, he calls them polemical games instead of political games, including Vietnam Romance, he was sort of showing this off as a game that's sort of an adventure game, a 2D adventure game that is about the way that people have sort of romanticized Vietnam after the war, and folks who collect artifacts, you know, memorabilia for Vietnam during this era. Really, really cool and interesting. Not something I had been aware of previously. And Mohini, who just is fascinating and an interesting person, and was talking really a lot about politics and the sort of the idea of the simulacra, you know, in American life, basically, and in games in general. I sort of live tweeted it because I can't write about it because I couldn't write about this panel because my partner is on the panel. So I sort of live tweeted that and just loved it. You know, it was like really smart people talking about a thing. It was awesome.
Yeah, that's great.
One of my favorite experiences of being at Indicade didn't actually have anything to do with Indicade. I went to Halloween Horror Nights at Universal Studios.
Oh, man.
And it was the best. It was the best thing. There was an alien haunted house that had xenomorphs
basically
chasing after me.
A week after you saying, I wish I could be in this place on this set, you went to this place on this set.
And it was amazing.
It all worked out for you.
It was really, really good. If you're unaware, Halloween Horror Nights is basically like a really high-end, with good production values, set of haunted houses. They actually turn the park at night into sort of like, I don't know if you guys have like a Spooky World, or the way they do it, like Knott's Berry Farm or something like that, or a Six Flags, where they turn some of their attractions into basically haunted houses with, you know, actors and makeup.
Spooky mazes, basically?
It's spooky mazes, exactly like that. Only this is done with like
spooky mazes. Is that a thing?
No, like they're literally just a lot of theme parks. Literally, it is just like it's a maze with spooky lighting and guys who go. Bleh.
They just run out at you, that kind of thing. Only with really excellent like set design and lighting design and a narrative for each maze. You know, so it was Alien versus Predator, but it was mostly Alien, so it was cool. You know, each set kind of has, you know, a little piece of narrative. It's very game designy the way, you know, these are designed, but you're physically in the space. There's sound effects that are really good, and the makeup and costumes they're really, really good. Like the xenomorphs looked like xenomorphs, so it was awesome, you know. So that was really, really fun, and I really enjoyed that. and I got yelled at by a xenomorph, and I screamed really loud.
You got yelled at by a xenomorph, like, "Hey, don't go there!"
It was like the shrieky, like, you know, with the
it was an in-character scream. Yes. It wasn't the guy in the suit going.
He was like, "Brr."
That's not an exit, or whatever.
I mean, that would have been kind of great, actually.
Has your opinion evolved about Alien Isolation at all? Or are you just sort of still in it and stoked?
I'm still in love with it.
Okay.
I think that has to do with the way I'm playing it.
I listened to all of last week's episode, so I'm up on it.
Yeah, so I think it has to do with the way I'm playing it. I'm really just playing it like every couple of days for a couple of hours.
Oh, that's nice.
No, that's a good way to play a game.
Yeah. So it's, you know, it's stressful, intense, and it's making me swear a lot, and it's making me sweat while I'm playing it. My hands are like, you know, sweating on the controller as I'm playing the game. And that's exactly what I want out of an Alien game. So yeah, same opinion as I had previously.
Cool.
Really enjoying that.
Awesome. You guys want to take a break?
Yeah.
Sure.
Video game.
We'd like to thank our sponsor, Squarespace, the all-in-one platform that makes it super simple to create your own professional website, portfolio, and online store. And Chris, a reader, has done just that.
Exactly right. Christopher Olson wrote in to note that his girlfriend's blog was registered through the Idle Thumb Squarespace promotion. You can find it at pastryaffair.com. And this is a blog where the author discusses all kinds of delicious pastry treats that she makes. She includes the recipes.
Oh, she makes them?
Mm-hmm.
That's even better.
And she has photos and like sort of just talks about them for a while and why she made this thing and so on. And it's works great on mobile, works great on your desktop. It's pastryaffair.com.
And you, too, can use Squarespace by going to squarespace.com and entering the offer code THUMBS at checkout. Plans start at $8 a month, include a free domain name if you sign up for a year. And, yeah, it will help out the show. So that's squarespace.com. Enter the offer code THUMBS at checkout for a free trial and 10% off.
Video game.
This episode is also brought to you by Hulu Plus, an online streaming subscription service for all of your computers and mobile devices and everything that plays videos, basically. Go to huluplus.com/thumbs for a free 2-week trial to check out everything they have on there.
I am literally last night started with the pilot of the X-Files. I'm going to watch 220 episodes, 10 seasons. 202 episodes, whatever it is.
201 or something, yeah.
Of the X-Files.
They have that all
I have
on Hulu
seen
Plus.
In my life maybe 50 episodes of the X-Files, like here and there.
All right,
and I liked them all. And like it was like a time of high school where like Adam and I were super into the X-Files.
I would say that although Hulu Plus includes the entire run of the X-Files, you could probably stop somewhere in season 6 and you'd be okay.
Yeah.
Well, I'll stop when I feel like it. Anyway, huluplus.com/thumbs.
For that and many, many other shows.
For only the X-Files, I think. Is all and Twin Peaks. Twin Peaks Rewatch.com.
The great shows of the 90s.
Video games.
But the pilot is really good.
Yeah, there's a lot of good stuff in
the pilot show. It's like a woebegone era of like, oh, I really just fucking wish like a good, sharp, not bullshit pilot could be made like that today. It's really good. It's an hour long. Oh, it's really good. The chemistry between Mulder and Scully is just instant. Oh, it's delicious.
Okay, I watched the fucking pilot for the X-Files last night, too, and the second episode. Yes.
Wow.
With Patricia, for the first time ever, she's never seen them before.
I had never seen any of this for early season stuff.
Oh, it's amazing.
I got into like season 5 and 6-ish, and then I was sort of like pretty much done.
Yeah, I watched 3 through 6 in like grad school, but now I'm going back and watching the whole thing.
It's so weird. We were both watching the pilot. Why last night? I literally I'm going to watch all 201 episodes of the X-Files was the decision I made. I can't just decide to watch one thing. I would just be like, no, this is my thing now. Because if I make that decision in an instant, like last night, now I don't have to make that decision again for like a month.
Exactly.
It's perfect.
Just keep putting on X-Files.
Just
it's
keep
great.
It just goes. It'll pick up where I left off.
I find it reasonably treasonous that like the day Chris and I launch a Twin Peaks themed podcast, the other hosts of this podcast start watching the X-Files.
Oh my god, you know what that means?
The other
Sean.
90s era.
I need to be honest. I don't like
what
Twin
that
Peaks.
means.
I know you don't like Twin Peaks.
I don't like Twin Peaks. I'm really excited for your podcast. I'm sure it's going to be really good.
Good.
this means we need to make an X-Files rewatch podcast.
Dota/Dota Today situation.
In that you guys.
Twin Peaks rewatch is your Dota Today.
Unclear. I didn't listen to the episode yet. I don't know what the production values are like, or
they're like this podcast.
I don't know the chemistry of the hosts.
Thing.
I don't know, man. I don't know what the format is. I don't know. You gotta compete for my ears.
Huh?
I won't.
You gotta work for it.
That new Taylor Swift album that's coming out. It's very good.
Good.
It's good.
Sean programs most of the music in the Los Angeles International Airport.
Oh God.
He wishes.
Death to my ears.
I don't know. Are we back?
I think we're back, right?
I think we are back.
I think
now.
we've been back.
I think
I don't think we were back until now.
Fair enough.
We'll let history decide.
We'll let history and Chris decide.
Yeah. Chris History Ramo.
I played a detective game also.
Really?
I like that you would just say I played a
detective game.
I also played a detective game.
Sherlock Holmes, Crimes and Punishments.
Called The Vanishing of Ethan Carter.
Oh, you played The Vanishing of Ethan Carter. So did Sir Chrome over here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I played the first couple hours anyway. I streamed it in my natural accent, which was fun, which was my most...
You can say Carter the whole time. Like Carter.
Yeah. Ethan Carter. It's a supernatural detective game, adventure game, much in the vein that you were talking about earlier. This style of game, this nouveau.
Yeah, it's first person
game.
Though, right?
It is first person.
Yeah, that's totally different though than kind of what I was talking about. Like if Sherlock Holmes, Crimes and Punishments was first person, which is what I was hoping it was.
I was thinking of it as if it were first person.
No, it's a third person.
Is it the opening?
The opening is first person, but the rest is third person follow cam.
Interesting.
Wonky third person follow cam.
Well, Ethan Carter.
So it's the PT of Sherlock Holmes games.
Yes.
Because that Silent Hill game that PT is
a
spin-off of.
It's a rail. It's not actually first person. It's first person point to point. In the beginning. Yeah, I need to make it clear. First person
so you
point to point.
are creepy Watson.
Yeah, you're in a first person point to point set piece, dodging bullets of like Holmes is like blindfolded, shooting them in his study, and you have to like get over to like stop him. It's a thing.
All right.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's intense.
You can't be shot.
Speaking of not that, The Vanishing of Ethan Carter.
Yes.
Yeah. Except...
It's a pretty game. It's very pretty. It's in this sort of like, fall small town setting. Ethan Carter is a boy who apparently wrote into you. You have some ridiculous dime store novel name that I can't remember right now. I was saying it.
Chris, what is his name?
You remember what his name was?
I can't remember, but but I felt the same way.
It's some ridiculous, like, I'm going to make this up.
It starts
it's like
off with the
JP Thorpe or some stupid, that's not what it is, but it's ridiculous.
More than that. But yeah, and he introduces himself by being like, when things go wrong,
it's like Slam Enigma, basically. Like,
it really is. It really is like, Mr. Enigma. Yeah, it's really ridiculous.
It's probably Jack something, right? It's probably
it's
Jack.
God, why can't I remember this? Bless you.
Shit.
Jack Looker. It's something that stupid. It's something that
it's dumb. Paul Prospero.
That's
Paul
it.
Prospero.
Paul Prospero.
But I didn't want to say that.
Paulie Prospero. Yeah,
Prospero.
That's
right. They call me Ross Perot.
The nose.
I'm a billionaire. I got big ears.
When you have to reform the government.
God. Yeah. It's very dime store novel.
Flat tax.
Setting. Supernatural. Something's gone horribly wrong. The first puzzle involves a train and someone who was run over and lost their legs and then was murdered somewhere else. So you solve puzzles in this first-person 3D game. Uh-huh. You solve puzzles, and then you enter a sort of investigation scene where ghostly figures of where people were during a murder scene appear, and you have to then solve that puzzle. But it's sort of a different... It has the Sherlock Holmes, like, floating words that go faster when you get closer
and that was in
to
that was in Heavy Rain and things like that.
Yeah, a very Heavy Rain sort of thing. I really have been enjoying the puzzles themselves, but not the writing. I think the writing in this game is really pretty terrible.
Like how does that teach me how to do that? How to appreciate a thing for like one of its parts. And
but
then not the other parts that are like, excuse me. Yeah. How do you do that?
Is there nothing that you like that is not 100% perfect? What do you mean by that?
No. Alternatively, it's rare for me to like something that has one giant glaring flaw that I can't get over. Mm-hmm. Like, there's the alternative to a glaring flaw can just be fine. Sure. It doesn't have to be perfect. It can just not draw attention to itself.
You can't deal with glaring flaws.
But I think in this case, it might just be that you are a person who writes dialogue for video games. So for other people, bad writing is fine, and for you, it's a glaring flaw.
Yeah, I guess.
Like that's. True. I mean, it's
so weird to me.
Yeah.
I hate to put it. I don't like that as a framing, but I guess I have to allow it.
I mean, it might not be the case.
Yeah.
It's not very good. It's just very cliched. It's very like, this young boy stumbled onto something supernatural and his family went crazy. It's just very like...
That sounds cool, though. You could write that well.
You could write that well, yes. But it's I don't feel like it's written very well at this stage. I'm only like 3, maybe 4 hours in.
But enough hours.
Yeah, I feel like I would know, at this point. So, you've played it too, Chris?
Yeah, I mean, I felt the same way.
Chris is only 12 hours in, so he's not sure also.
I actually kind of just petered out after a while, because I just couldn't really find anything to grab onto, I suppose. Sure, I was kind of walking around this place, and it's fucking beautiful as hell. It's so gorgeous. They really nailed it, like visually, to an impressive degree. But I would kind of walk around and I find these puzzles, and they just felt like,
here's a puzzle.
Here's a puzzle, like Myst or something, right? Which is fine, but I don't know if that's for me anymore.
Sure.
In that way, and it was hard for me to swallow the you're a detective with supernatural powers thing. It's just not really up my alley. And not to say that that's an inherently bad choice or a bad thing, but it's just not. I don't think it's for me totally.
Yeah.
So I kind of had a hard time finding something about this game a hook that I could be like, yes, all right, cool. Now I'm bought in. I just never really felt bought in, I suppose.
Yeah, I should probably say, I played this 2 or 3 weeks ago and I haven't gone back. So, I definitely can understand that as well. I think a game that it kept reminding me of, but I actually really did enjoy and did have a hook for me, was Murdered Soul Suspect.
Oh, yeah,
I was going to say that.
Which I really, really enjoyed, even though, again, I think there were a lot of flaws in that game, but it took place in Salem and it had this kind of cool ghost story. It was also a very dime store novel kind of setup. It was a little cheesy, but I still, for some reason, that really kind of grabbed me, where the writing is just kind of
But it feels like
off.
Ethan Carter, because I didn't buy it because Chris played it, and then I went, oh, thank you, just saved me some money, because it communicated that it was a serious adult piece of fiction about a mystery.
That's actually what I thought it was going to be.
And it was set in this beautiful, well-crafted world. This has an insane level of fidelity, and you're going to... Yeah, I was like, oh man, this is what I want to do. And then the moment the supernatural shit started, I went, and Chris was playing it at his desk and said, oh no, there's a supernatural shit in here. I went, Yeah.
Well, it was kind of unclear to me at first whether it even was supernatural, because it starts and you get all this the weird words swirling around the thing, and I'm like,
process?
Yeah, I'm like, oh, this is just how it represents how you identify things, I guess. And then it just kind of, as it was going on, it started to feel more and more fractured and kind of
it doesn't feel very grounded in any kind of reality.
Exactly.
Or
even
fiction.
an invented reality.
Exactly.
This is something that it's hard for me to actually fault this developer for, honestly, because it's fucking difficult when you're making a game being okay, what's the reason the player has to just solve some puzzles or go to this place now? It's so hard to actually come up with consistently believable, consistent to the player and also internally consistent to the world, reasons for just things to happen and for stuff to be right and for things that the player can directly address and sort of fix without being a combat system or a sliding box puzzle or something. It's so hard. And so supernatural stuff is a way you can do that. It's a way you can just choose to solve those things. But being you can see things that aren't there. The game The Room is that by way of the lens you can put over stuff, and then it shows properties of the world that you couldn't otherwise see without applying this lens over it. And so it allows you to have this additional layer of understanding that you can use to work through the puzzles. And that's, I think, the same reason that in a game like this, they say, oh, you have this supernatural sixth sense or whatever.
Sight or whatever.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Exactly. But it's hard for me not to, when I actually experience it as a player, it's hard for me not to just think, oh, it's like a reason they can just sort of put some abstract puzzles in the game.
Yeah.
And I just didn't really ever...
Yeah.
It didn't ever catch with me.
Yeah, I can definitely understand that. I think with Murdered Soul Suspect, which I might be the only person who really liked this game, it went whole hog into its fiction. And it really, it was goofy and cheesy, but it went for it. And Ethan Carter just feels a little bit like, oh, we kind of did this as a Band-Aid. Like we kind of went supernatural because we kind of had to.
Hedge.
You know,
feel like it's something. Like it's playing a little too cool for school with the fact that it, like with itself, even though it has that stuff in it.
Yeah,
exactly.
It's a weird thing about being on a video game podcast that I haven't thought about in a long time is that it kind of makes it harder to have that experience where you're just like the one person who likes this thing that nobody else seems to like. Like, so you'll just have that.
That sounds true.
Yeah. What?
I just feel like I like lots of stuff you guys hate.
I'm not saying us specifically.
Oh, okay.
I mean, like in
life.
Yeah, like, because once you have to sort of
keep going. I'm not quite.
Yeah, I know it's going to be hard for me to.
It's fine.
It's hard for me to explain because I can't actually think of the last time that I did this.
Right.
Which is what's tough. But I remember in the past in my life having the experience of playing some just like totally nonsense game that I kind of recognized was really stupid in a lot of ways, but was just like, well, I just like this dumb experience of like playing this thing.
Yep.
You're Zuma.
Kind of like Zuma, yeah. Although Zuma, I think there's like millions of
right.
It's like there are other people who agree with you.
To be like compulsively liked for mechanical animal reasons.
Yeah. But like liking something and then sort of knowing that there's no defense for liking it. I'm not saying that's the same as Murdered Soul Suspect. You framing it as like you being the only person who liked it reminded me of how hard it is to actually feel that way when you're beholden to like explaining your thoughts on something in detail every week.
Right, you know why though? Is it the reason you like Scandal?
Kind of, yeah. I kind of like just really liking Scandal and knowing that it's pretty trashy, but I just
but you don't have to come onto a podcast and then somehow justify the experience of playing it to people. Like, we generally don't just go, I like it. Really liked it.
It's cool. It's fun.
It's dumb.
Boring content.
It's dumb. Right. You can't, like, it's dumb fun. I can't recommend it to you if this sound, it just like, you just bury whatever you say under like 5,000 hedges. Like, I mean, Chris also would not come onto this podcast and be like, so I was watching Scandal last week. Here's what's interesting about it that I'm going to convey to you.
Would you do it as a TV podcast? You'd probably come back to it, right? If we were just as a more general media
The thing
podcast.
about Scandal is that the thing that's interesting about Scandal is like, you don't need to have watched as much of it as I have to get, right? Which is like, it's a show about a sort of like mature, extremely competent black woman who exists in a world that is like traditionally not powerfully staffed by that kind of person.
Right.
But like, I've watched 3 seasons of Scandal, and like that's no longer like that's like that's like the reason you're like, oh, an interesting premise. Like, I'll watch this for a couple episodes.
You don't spend around for 60 hours.
40 episodes later, I'm not still sitting there being like, oh, interesting. No.
You're like,
my stories.
Like, I wonder if Zachary's going to be a fucker this time.
Right.
Yeah, you're really just into the.
Is that a Sandra Rhimes?
It is a Shonda Rhimes, and I'm also watching her new show, How to Get Away with Murder, which is like
excellent,
trashier than Scandal.
Yeah, you mentioned that last week.
Yeah, because it just starts off as trashy as Scandal like becomes.
Yeah. Oh, amazing!
Whatever, I don't fucking care.
Baton.
So I like her, even if I don't like her.
I kind of wonder. I wonder if it's a byproduct of the podcast a little bit, or is it also just we're getting older and what's on offer is less. It's like. I don't know.
It might be twofold. One,
you know what I mean?
I think we self-select a lot more aggressively than we used to, and also I think being on this podcast might have made all of us far better at articulating the thing that we like about a thing.
I think those are
well, because you were just
that's definitely true. I think you're right.
There years ago, one of us could be playing desert golfing and be like, "It's just fun, and I can't stop playing it."
Right.
And that game there's a lot of things that you could say. And there are. I mean, you've spun 20 minutes of very interesting stuff out of that game, and for justifiable reasons. But like,
no, I think you're right about that.
I mean, Zuma is also a game that's designed to be a guilty pleasure, but you happily would tell people down to the detail what you find fascinating about it and why you can't stop playing it.
Right. Whereas,
and that's a skill. I think that's not.
No, I think you're probably right, and there probably are people who are television writers or I'm sorry, like television critics, people who follow television who are probably have a lot more to say about that stuff than I do. I guess we're becoming that now because we're doing a new podcast called Twin Peaks Rewatch.
Oh my God.
I'm doing a podcast called Sean Started Playing Desert Golfing. And every 5-minute podcast. Every 50 holes, I'm going to do a recap and people can play alongside me.
You should stream it.
Every hole. Well, like...
every hole.
That one was really hard.
Nailed it.
Next week.
Oh, man. 9 strokes. Woof.
God, it would take you the rest of your life to finish that podcast run.
Well, it depends on how many episodes. I wouldn't just record one episode a day. I'd probably record like 100 at a time and just chop them all up. Because, it wouldn't take me the rest of my life. There's 10,000 holes.
Yeah.
I hope I live longer than... Oh, my God. It would take me the rest of my life. I hope I live to be 89.
The math just...
life is short.
Dawned.
Oh, no! What?
The math just dawned on your face in the most wonderful way.
I actually my whole body went cold and I got short of breath.
God, can you imagine someone when, the day Desert Golf, or whatever, today, says, I'm going to play 1 hole of Desert Golf per day for the rest of my life? Can you imagine being the guy who made that game and how you would feel?
I want to see that guy's iPhone in 40 years.
I'm saying, 8 years from now, he just hits up that guy on Twitter and is like, I'm on hole 3,000.
Yeah,
still doing it. That would be one of the most terrifying things someone could ever say to me as someone who makes a thing.
Really?
Yeah, because you've made something that is going to accompany that person until their death.
Okay,
slowly and inexorably.
It's kind of nice though. It's like a companion.
Yeah,
there's something kind of sweet about that.
A cheery companion.
Having something, even on your worst days, you play your 1 hole.
It's nice for that person. That's like me doing the New York Times crossword puzzle. I've done it every day. Yeah.
Will, you were talking.
Years.
Who's the guy who made Desert Golfing?
Justin Smith.
Will Shortz is your Justin Smith.
Yeah, but I don't say to Will Shortz Also, I feel like it's a little bit different. Maybe it's not different.
He designs a new thing every day to be done by people as part of
their
daily routine.
And also, he doesn't do all of them. He's the editor.
Right. But it's also... It's known that I made this for you on a Tuesday, you'll play it on Wednesday, and that is the relationship we have forever.
Yeah.
As opposed to just, I just made this stupid game, but you could do this. Yeah.
Huh.
That was a real dead end, wasn't it?
So to speak.
Oh, dead end.
I like that game, though, Desert Golfing.
Yeah.
I was talking to Chris about this last night, Jake, but because I know all the bonkers stuff in it because of this podcast, I now just have to appreciate it for what people purchase it for.
Which is to be the simplest golf game.
Yeah, it's just a stupid little golf game. Right. And I like it because it's a stupid little golf game, but then I'm been robbed. I'm going to say robbed. That's kind of a pejorative. I'm unable to be surprised by the game.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. But I'm still I think that's a testament to just how well it's made. That,
Desert Golfing also, admittedly, for as much as you enjoy this, Chris, I would say that Desert Golfing... Well, I started Goldbluming there. I would say that Desert Golfing is a game that can fascinate and captivate you only if you allow it to and fixate on that.
Oh, of course.
Definitely. Desert Golfing is... You just say, I've heard this game is a game that you can fixate on.
Yeah. And then just sort of get wound up.
Desert Golfing does not ask you to give a shit about that. Desert Golfing asks you to get a low score.
Yeah.
Yeah, right. That's true, but...
Uh-oh.
So 2 things about Desert Golfing. One...
Here we go.
So one of them undercuts my own kind of observations, I think, and one of them reinforces it, perhaps. So the first observation that some people have made to me that
says Goldblum.
What?
I said it'd be Goldblum.
Nope.
Oh.
Several people have pointed out to me a thing that I did not pick up on at all, which is that Desert Golfing is a total homage to Desert Bus, which is... does everyone know Desert Bus?
Yeah, Desert Bus is a Penn and Teller game.
Yeah, it's it's the game where you just...
It takes 8 hours to drive from it's Reno to somewhere?
It's Yuma to Vegas.
Okay, that's
something
what it is.
Something like that, yeah. And you just have to slightly correct the steering for hours and hours. You can't just let it go.
And there's no pausing.
Go off track. There's no pausing. You just have to slowly correct the steering for hours and hours and hours. It's just desert. It's a shitty desert. It's intended to be the most boring ride imaginable. And there's a cactus in there. And people have pointed out that is...
That's the vase?
Yeah, that's the actual cactus in Desert Golf. Desert Golf is this weird...
the actual sprite?
Deliberately mundane... I don't know if it's exact sprite
but it's the same
idea. Got it,
yeah. It's this deliberately mundane, just sand like sandy wasteland of nothing forever homage to desert golfing, which kind of makes the cactus choice less fascinating. Well, in a way more interesting and in a way less interesting, right? Than like my kind of just existential angst about it. The thing that is the other thing that I saw the other day was a video that someone took of like hole 3,384 or something. It's not the right number, but it was somewhere in the mid 3,000s of a hole that suddenly just breaks physics. And like, it's a really flat, just nondescript hole with very little terrain feature, very few terrain features. But once you try and just putt the ball in, it just fucks with your physics constantly to like send it careening past the hole, or to have it like bounce off an invisible wall and just, or speed it up, like do all kinds of crazy things. And I saw a YouTube video of someone playing until they got it, and it took them like 120 strokes because they had to just try every little angle of like, shoot it like up and over. What this might be an invisible wall here, I'm not sure. But then it would bounce way away, and they'd have to try it again. And it's just, they sped up the video ×2 speed because it would just be insufferable to watch otherwise. And this is just something that the author of the game just inserted hours and hours and hours and hours and hours into it.
Right. That's like how one of the levels has like a profile of a face in it for no reason.
Right. Yeah.
Do you think that this person was just sort of fucking with players, or do you think there was like a real intentionality to like these specific
that's my
elements?
whole question about this game.
It feels very much like a person made this game and then sort of added a couple details in out of
I think that's
boredom
probably
or entertaining themselves, and then went and put it in the App Store. But
yeah, I think that's probably.
I mean, I love that idea. That's great.
Oh yeah, no, it's fantastic.
But it might be some sort of treatise on the 10,000 days that Sean has left in his life or whatever.
That's what he's going to see this face on day 3,384. So I just wanted to super quickly, if I can, just say the names of the people that were on that panel I mentioned earlier, because I totally completely blanked on their names, and I didn't want to. Yeah, it's called Politics and Games: The Creation of Message and Meaning. The speakers were Naomi Clark, Mohini Dutta, I apologize for forgetting her last name, Ben Norskov, Eddo Stern, and then Patricia Hernandez. So,
do you know if Indicade talks get recorded and put up anywhere, or are they just like?
I really don't know. I live tweeted pretty much the whole thing, and somebody storyfied it, and I can find that link.
Oh, cool.
And actually,
could you put that in the thread?
Yeah, I can definitely do that. It was just a really good talk. So sorry, I just wanted to get the names out there so it didn't sound like I was completely making shit up and just off the cuff saying it was cool, but there's no substance to what I said.
I just played Smash Brothers all week.
The more single player stuff?
Yes. I did a little bit of online play, but I don't need to talk about it.
Yeah. That's fine.
It plays the way you'd expect.
Sure.
Yeah. And it's good and it's fun. Don't break your circle pad, because it's easy to do.
It's mostly anonymous, has a little bit of lag, and everyone's better than me. That's Smash Brothers multiplayer.
Smash Brothers. Your weekly Smash Brothers update.
That's also just what the world looks like through my eyes at all times.
Yes, I was just going to say that.
Have you encountered more characters of one type more than others? Like there's a theory There's a theory out there right now that some people are favoring certain characters. Like the more percentage of people. Okay, just out of curiosity.
There's a meta game. There's like a meta.
Of course.
There always is. Like Smash Brothers for the GameCube ended up eventually just optimizing down to you are Star Fox and you play in Final Destination. Like that's But like, the one notable thing that I wasn't expecting, because I don't think they did it like this in Brawl, but the 3DS Smash Brothers, when you press I want to play online just by myself, it says, are you in it for fun? Or are you in it for like, it's like an old
blood.
It basically is. It reminds me of like
glory or something like that.
It reminds me of like you're gonna quit playing Wolfenstein 3D, and it's like, do you want to be a baby? Or are you in this for guts and glory like a man? And like, because it is just like fun time, and it has Kirby like getting knocked back while smiling, and has a star coming out, and then the other one is like glory, and it's just like 5 anime guys with swords. But if you click on glory, it's like Omega Mode stage is only no items.
Serious shit.
And so the Omega Mode version of the stages, because I think Nintendo got tired of pro players only playing on Final Destination. So now every stage's theme, you can flip it to Omega Mode, which just keeps all the art and the music and all the little ambient effects, but just replaces it with one flat platform.
Yeah.
So I didn't play on that mode because I knew I'd just be ruined.
Yeah.
And even in playing for fun mode, everyone random rolls the character. People vote on a random map. And it's like, well, okay, fine. I'm just going to be Luigi over here.
That's how you have fun. Cool. Yeah.
I mean, it was fun, but whatever. I was surprised that they went so far as to just embrace, this is how people who give a shit about skill-based Smash Brothers play the game. We're just going to have that top line of the multiplayer menu, just like a binary switch that just throws quick access to that mode. It was really surprising.
Kind of good. I think, that they have that option.
Yep, just makes me want the Wii U version. Anyway, do you guys want to read mail from readers?
I'd love to do that.
I do want to do that. I've been finding some of it.
Oh, we talked about... Oh, should we do the thing where we wrap up what we talked about?
Oh, yeah, I got it, I think.
Awesome.
This, since... Yeah, we're trying to list all the games
Good
every
housekeeping.
Week. We discussed Sherlock Holmes Crimes and Punishments.
Yes.
We discussed Sherlock Holmes Consulting Detective, the Los Angeles International Airport, Indicade, Vietnam Romance, Vanishing of Ethan Carter, Murdered Soul Suspect, Desert Golfing, Desert Bus, and Super Smash Bros. for 3DS.
Oh, yeah.
As it is officially called.
Absolutely.
All right. So Minta Duhamel writes, Xibalba. Hey, Thumbs. I listen to your podcast in binges, starting with the most recent one and working my way backwards until I've caught up on the past several months. I began another round recently and got to episode 170, Esophagus Sarcophagus, where Danielle mentioned she'd played a game called Xibalba. I don't remember what the game was like anymore, but I remember you guys joking that the word Xibalba sounded like a Star Wars name. Perhaps it was reminiscent of Xibalba.
Xibalba?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm Mexican-Canadian and just wanted to let you know, Xibalba isn't a made-up word. It's the name of an underworld in Mayan mythology, which she links to on Wikipedia. Since I grew up in Canada, I don't know a ton about my Mexican heritage, but my dad was always proud of his native background and taught us some things about it growing up. If you're interested, it's pronounced something like this. And then I think what she's writing is intended to be said Xibalba,
okay.
I think.
Cool.
Follow the YouTube link to hear a reviewer pronounce it correctly and awesomely. Okay, well, she has a YouTube link.
Nice.
Apparently a metal band somewhere named themselves after the Mayan underworld. Go figure. To close, love the podcast, and it was a pleasant surprise to begin my latest binge and find out there's a girl here now. Hi, Danielle.
Hi.
Minta Duhamel.
That's awesome. Thank you for letting us know. I'm sorry I didn't mean to make fun of something that was real. It seemed like it was like a metal thing in the game or something.
So did some metal people think
Most
that.
metal things tend to then just be named after the mythology of various nations, though.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah.
Or made-up mythologies.
Or made-up mythologies.
Cool. I want to...
Right.
Yeah, I want to
various
now...
nations or Middle-earth.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Speaking of Middle-earth, we had a few emails about our Shadow of Mordor discussion. So Steve Hack writes, Hi, Thumbs. I really enjoyed the discussion about Shadow of Mordor and the surrounding moral questions being set in the Lord of the Rings universe brings, but I disagree with 2 points Chris brought up. One, I don't agree that Talion is presented nobly, Talion being the main character of the game. He and the Wraith are both presented as seeking revenge and using his moments of humanity are shown by using trickery, deceit, and stealth rather than brute force to slaughter orcs. Even if their goal is defeating the forces of Mordor and Sauron, neither character is good. It's mentioned by the freed slaves that Talion was hunting them before the orcs overran wherever he was stationed. The next point isn't Chris's so much as Carolyn Pettit's, as you referenced her due to not having reached the end of the game yet. It's unfortunate that the plot seems undercut for the sake of sequelitis, because Celebrimbor is not a good person. He's clearly corrupting Talion. If they could have just ended the game, I could see a fall of those characters like you suggest the corrupting power implies in Lord of the Rings. Talion should have died. Celebrimbor should be released or doomed to eternal torment. Instead, they have the Middle-earth equivalent of a ghost dead guy high-five to keep kicking ass. It's a shame because it was so close. Thanks all. Please keep casting pods. Steve Badfinger Hack. And then also on this topic, Sean Green writes, Hi, Thumbs. I enjoyed the discussion about...
more Shadow of names?
Shadows.
What?
No, nothing. Go ahead.
Hi, Thumbs. I enjoyed the discussion in 179 about the way Shadow of Mordor goes to some lengths to portray orc society and imbue them with character and then asks you to mercilessly slaughter and enslave them for hours on end. The reason why I'm writing is because some of your comments reminded me of a book of which I'd guess you're probably unaware. Apologies if you are. In the late 90s, a Russian scientist and writer named Kirill Eskov wrote and published in Russian a book called The Last Ring Bearer, which essentially reframes Tolkien's The Lord of the Ring from the point of view of rank-and-file members of Sauron's army. It's essentially an exploration of the idea of history being written by the victors, and presents the tale of the One Ring's destruction not as an epic tale of good triumphing over evil, but as a war between decadent and corrupt societies obsessed with their mythic past versus societies which look forward via industrial and technological process. Or at least that's my understanding of it. I've only read a few chapters so far. For a decade, the novel wasn't available in English, apparently due to fear of the Tolkien estate's lawyers, but a fan translation published on LiveJournal was given Eskov's blessing back in 2010.
Like Brecken's LiveJournal.
You can find out more here if you're so inclined, which... There's an address, which is, I guess I'll just read the URL because it's not super long. ymarkov.livejournal.com/270570.html. As always, great show. Keep casting it. I'll keep listening.
That sounds cool.
Oh, so what I was saying about Shadow of stuff is in the style of Crimes and Punishments, Wars and Pieces, and not being able to come up with it. We spent like a long time last week being
Empire.
Yeah,
Shadow of
the Colossus, Shadow of the Empire.
Yeah,
Shadow of Colossus.
People in the
I feel like there's a third one, but I guess that's the two. But
Shadowrun.
Shadow of the Run. Shadow of
Run.
Yeah, we were just like, seems there should be like a whole bunch of games named this.
Yeah, I was in my car listening to the podcast going, are you serious? These guys can't remember?
Of the Colossus, the Empire.
I know. And I really liked Shadows of the Empire when I was, 12.
I love Shadows of the Empire.
It was really fun.
A lot of cast has been spilt on the subject
on the
Dash
saga
Rendar.
of Dash Rendar.
Darth Rendar. Whoa, that's in the margins of your notes in school.
They got married?
No, Darth Rendar.
No, I know. He married Darth
Vader.
Vader.
Darth Icky.
That would be lovely. That would be some Star Wars /fic I would read.
A Vader Rendar wedding.
Vader Rendar.
I'll send you a thing. Do we have any more reader mail?
You're like, yep.
I mean, we have a bunch more, but
all right.
we might want to wrap it up at this point.
Do any readers have /fic between Dash Rendar?
If you have any Dash Rendar /fic, please send it to questions@idlethumbs.net along with any other video game inquiries you might have.
Darth Icky.
Thanks a lot for listening. And remember, if you subscribe to us on iTunes, it really helps us promote the show. It actually does. People find the show that way. It does a lot. Please review us, please.
Google Darth Icky.
That is definitely worth your time. Did we talk about that?
No.
We never talked about the internal meeting at LucasArts where George Lucas pitched Darth Icky or Darth...
I don't remember the other name.
Sidious?
No, Darth Sidious is real.
Darth Sidious.
It was Darth Icky or Darth...
I don't want to Google it and find it. It was
Darth Grossy Pants? Like, what?
They were talking about... They were working on Jedi... Whatever. What was the past two Jedi games?
Oh.
Force Unleashed.
Force Unleashed. Yeah. And they were
Darth Icky or Darth Insanious.
What?
So yeah, they were talking about like these characters, and they said, "Oh, I think it'd be good if if you would allow us to make one of these characters a Darth, the bad guy."
Yeah.
And then Lucas agreed, and then suggested bold-faced Darth Icky or Darth Insanious, and they all waited for a laugh or a crack of a smile that never came. A solid 4 count, and then he moved on to something else. Pretty fucking good.
Apparently, those I've heard other off-the-record stories about those meetings about that game series in particular, because that was at the height of Lucas. I guess not having a lot going on, but LucasArts producing a bunch of AAA Star Wars stuff. It's ridiculous.
It's insane.
I feel like Darth Icky and Darth Insanious would have to just be
Can we have /fic for them?
Yes.
Yes.
If that's the tip of the iceberg, then I can imagine the rest of the iceberg.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
It's tasty.
It's a tasty iceberg.
It's a tasty iceberg. Yeah.
A tasty berg.
Yes, it's a tasty.
I'm really
berg.
hungry.
Yeah,
Subscribe
fine,
to iTunes for Darth Icky.